Robert Baratheon's side, tearing flesh and pride, but it had not claimed his life. The wound festered for a time, and the court held its breath, but the king's stubborn vitality, forged in the fires of rebellion and tempered by years of excess, and prevailed. Maester Pycelle, with his trembling hands and endless poultices, muttered of miracles, while Cersei Lannister's golden mask of concern cracked at the edges. Robert lived, and the Seven Kingdoms trembled on the edge of a different fate. It was the autumn of 299 AC, and King's Landing buzzed with the restless energy of a realm spared from chaos, yet not entirely at peace. Robert, scarred but unbowed, sat upon the Iron Throne, his great warhammer resting against its jagged arm. The court was a tapestry of whispers. The small folk cheered their warrior king's survival, while the highborn schemed, their ambitions sharpened by the nearness of his death. Robert Baratheon's laughter boomed through their Red Keep's great hall, drowning out the minstrels' lutes. The feast was a riot of excess. Roast boar, a defiant jest, rivers of arbor gold, and a dozen courses that left tables groaning. The king, bandaged beneath his doublet, raised a goblet, his face flushed but alive. "To the Seven Kingdoms!" he roared, "and to the bloody beast that thought it could take me!" The hall erupted in cheers, though not all were sincere. Ned Stark, seated at the high table, managed a weary smile. His old friend's survival was a relief, but the shadow of Cersei's treachery lingered. Ned had uncovered the truth of Joffrey's parentage before the hunt, and though he had not yet acted, the knowledge burned in his chest like a coal. Beside Ned, Sansa clapped politely, her eyes darting to Joffrey, who lounged with a petulant sneer. Arya, picking at her food, muttered something about wishing the boar had better aim. At the far end of the table, Cersei's smile was a blade, sharp and cold, while Jaime Lannister, resplendent in his Kingsguard white, watched the room with a predator's calm. Robert, oblivious to the undercurrents, called for more wine. "Ned!" he bellowed. "You look like you've swallowed a lemon. Lighten up, man. We're alive and the realm's still mine." Ned forced a nod. "Aye, Robert. A blessing from the gods." "Gods be damned," Robert said, grinning. "It was my own bloody strength. Now where's that squire, Lancel? More wine." Lancel Lannister, pale and nervous, scurried forward, nearly spilling the flagon. Robert laughed, but Ned's eyes narrowed. Lancel had been the one to ply Robert with strong wine during the hunt, at Cersei's behest. The boy was a pawn, but a dangerous one. As the feast wore on, Robert's mood darkened. He leaned toward Ned, his voice low. "I'm not blind, Ned. I know the vipers in this nest. Cersei's been too quiet, and that whelp of Joffrey's got no spine. I need you, old friend. Stay in King's Landing. Help me clean this mess." Ned's heart sank. He longed for Winterfell, for Catelyn and his children, but duty bound him. "I'll stay, Robert, for as long as you need." Robert clapped his shoulder, hard enough to make Ned wince. "Good. We'll root out the rot together." Cersei Lannister stood in her solar, the moonlight casting her shadow across a map of Westeros. Jaime leaned against the wall, his golden hair glinting, his expression unreadable. "He should be dead," Cersei hissed, her fingers tightening around a goblet. "That oaf should be rotting, and Joffrey should be king. Instead, we're back to playing the dutiful wife." Jaime shrugged. "Robert's tougher than he looks, but he's not immortal. Another hunt, another accident." "No." Cersei's voice was sharp. "Not yet. Stark suspects something. He's been watching Lancel, and he's too honorable to let it go. If we move too soon, he'll run to Robert with his precious truth." Jaime's lips twitched. "Then we discredit Stark. Paint him as a traitor. Robert's fond of him, but he's not blind to ambition." Cersei's eyes gleamed. "Well, we use the truth to our advantage. Stark knows about Joffrey. If we can't silence him, we make him the villain. A northern lord plotting against the crown. It's a story the court will eat up." Jaime frowned. "Risky. If Robert believes him." "He won't," Cersei said. "Not if we're careful. We need allies. Father will send men from Casterly Rock. Littlefinger can be bought, and Varys. Varys will dance to whichever tune keeps his head on his shoulders." Jaime stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "And me? What's my role in this?" Cersei's smile was both tender and cruel. "You're my sword, Jaime. When the time comes, you'll cut down anyone who stands in our way." Ned Stark sat in his chambers, a single candle flickering against the darkness. The letter he had written to Catelyn lay unfinished. its words heavy with caution. He could not tell her everything, not yet, but he urged her to strengthen Winterfell's defenses and keep Robb close. A knock at the door startled him. "Enter!" he called, his hand resting on Ice's hilt. Sir Barristan Selmy stepped inside, his white cloak pristine despite the late hour. "Lord Stark, I've news. The gold cloaks have been restless. Jon Slint's been meeting with men from Casterly Rock." Ned's jaw tightened. "Lannister men?" "Aye," Barristan said. "And there's more. The small folk whisper of a royal decree. Robert's planning a tourney to celebrate his recovery. Half the lords in Westeros will come, and with them their swords." Ned rubbed his temples. A tourney meant chaos, a perfect stage for treachery. "Thank you, Sir Barristan. Keep your eyes open. I trust you more than most in this city." Barristan nodded. "I serve the king, Lord Stark, and I know an honorable man when I see one." When Barristan left, Ned turned to the window, gazing at the city below. King's Landing was a nest of lies, and Robert, for all his strength, was blind to the danger. Ned's thoughts drifted to Jon Arryn, poisoned for uncovering the same truth Ned now carried. He would not let Robert fall to the same fate. Joffrey Baratheon sulked in his chambers, a golden goblet dented from where he'd thrown it. His mother's words echoed in his mind. "Patience, my love, your time will come." But patience was a cage, and Joffrey was no tame beast. The hound, Sandor Clegane, stood by the door, his scarred face impassive. "You're brooding again, boy," he growled. "Won't make you king any faster." Joffrey's eyes flashed. "Don't call me boy. I'm the prince, and you're nothing but a dog." Sandor snorted. "A dog that keeps you alive. You want to play at being king? Start acting like one. Your father's still got years in him, and Stark's sniffing around. You're not safe." Joffrey's lip curled. "Stark? That northern fool thinks he can lecture me. I'll have his head one day." Sandor's laugh was a rasp. "Try it, and you'll find ice at your throat. Stark's no courtier, he's a killer, same as me." Joffrey's bravado faltered, but only for a moment. "Then I'll have you kill him. Or Sir Jaime. Someone will." Sandor shook his head. "You're playing a game you don't understand, boy. Keep it up and you'll lose more than a crown." Robert Baratheon stood in the training yard, his warhammer swinging in slow, deliberate arcs. Sweat glistened on his brow and the wound in his side ached, but he refused to yield. The court might see a drunken king, but Robert was a warrior still, and he would remind them. Ned watched from the sidelines, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. "You're pushing yourself too hard, Robert!" Robert grunted, slamming the hammer into a wooden dummy. "I'm not dead yet, Ned, and I won't be some fat old man who dies in his bed. The realm's a mess, and I've let it fester too long." Ned hesitated, then spoke. "There's something you need to know, Robert. About Joffrey." Robert paused, his hammer lowering. "What about the boy?" Ned's voice was steady, though his heart raced. "He's not your son. None of Cersei's children are. They're Jaime Lannisters." The yard fell silent save for the distant clatter of armor. Robert's face darkened, his knuckles whitening on the hammer's grip. For a moment, Ned thought he might strike him. "You're sure?" Robert's voice was a low growl. "I am," Ned said. "Jon Arryn died for this truth. I have proof, letters, witnesses. Cersei's been playing you for a fool." Robert's laughter was bitter, hollow. "A fool? I've been that and worse." He turned, his eyes blazing. "I'll have her head, hers and Jaime's, and those bastard children." "Robert," Ned interrupted, his voice firm. "Think. If you act rashly, the Lannisters will strike back. Tywin has an army, and Cersei's woven a web in this city. We need to be careful." Robert's chest heaved, but he nodded. "You're right, gods, Ned. I hate it, but you're right. We'll do this your way, for now, but I want them gone. All of them." Ned clasped his friend's shoulder. "We'll do it together, but we need allies. Stannis, Renley, the Tullys, and the Arryns. We can't fight the Lannisters alone." Robert's grin was feral. "Then let's call the banners. The storm's coming, Ned, and I'll be the one to break it." Varys, the master of whisperers, glided through the Red Keep's shadows, his silks whispering against the stone. In a hidden chamber he met with Pater Baelish, whose mocking smile never reached his eyes. "The king lives," Varys said, his voice soft, and Stark has told him the truth. The board has shifted. Littlefinger twirled a dagger, its blade catching the candlelight. A pity. I'd hoped for more chaos. But this has potential. Robert's rage will tear the court apart, and Cersei's desperation will make her sloppy. Varys tilted his head. And where do you stand, Lord Baelish? With the stag, the lion, or yourself? Littlefinger's laugh was sharp. Myself, always. Chaos is a ladder, Varys, and I intend to climb it. Varys' smile was enigmatic. Then climb carefully, my friend. The higher you go, the harder you fall. In Winterfell, Catelyn Stark read Ned's letter, her hands trembling. The words were veiled, but she understood. Danger loomed, and Ned needed her strength. She summoned Robb to her solar, her eldest son's gray eyes mirroring Ned's. Robb, she said, your father's in trouble. The Lannisters are plotting, and the King's Court is a battlefield. We must be ready. Robb's jaw tightened. I'll raise the banners. The North will stand with father. Catelyn placed a hand on his arm. Not yet. We wait for Ned's word. But prepare the men. Train them, arm them, and send word to the Umbers, the Karstarks, the Manderleys. If war comes, we'll need every sword. Robb nodded, his youth tempered by resolve. I won't let him down, Mother. Catelyn's smile was bittersweet. I know you won't, but pray it doesn't come to that. Robert Baratheon's laughter boomed through the Red Keep's great hall, drowning out the minstrels' lutes. The feast was a riot of excess. Roast boar, a defiant jest, rivers of arbor gold, and a dozen courses that left tables groaning. The king, bandaged beneath his doublet, raised a goblet, his face flushed but alive. To the 7 kingdoms! He roared, and to the bloody beast that thought it could take me! The hall erupted in cheers, though not all were sincere. Ned Stark, seated at the high table, managed a weary smile. His old friend's survival was a relief, but the shadow of Cersei's treachery lingered. Ned had uncovered the truth of Joffrey's parentage before the hunt, and though he had not yet acted, the knowledge burned in his chest like a coal. Beside Ned, Sansa clapped politely, her eyes darting to Joffrey, who lounged with a petulant sneer. Arya, picking at her food, muttered something about wishing the boar had better aim. At the far end of the table, Cersei's smile was a blade, sharp and cold, while Jaime Lannister, resplendent in his Kingsguard white, watched the room with a predator's calm. Robert, oblivious to the undercurrents, called for more wine. Ned! He bellowed. You look like you've swallowed a lemon. Lighten up, man. We're alive and the realm's still mine. Ned forced a nod. Aye, Robert. A blessing from the gods. Gods be damned, Robert said, grinning. It was my own bloody strength. Now where's that squire? Lancel! More wine! Lancel Lannister, pale and nervous, scurried forward, nearly spilling the flagon. Robert laughed, but Ned's eyes narrowed. Lancel had been the one to ply Robert with strong wine during the hunt, at Cersei's behest. The boy was a pawn, but a dangerous one. As the feast wore on, Robert's mood darkened. He leaned toward Ned, his voice low. I'm not blind, Ned. I know the vipers in this nest. Cersei's been too quiet, and that whelp Joffrey's got no spine. I need you, old friend. Stay in King's Landing. Help me clean this mess. Ned's heart sank. He longed for Winterfell, for Catelyn and his children, but duty bound him. I'll stay, Robert, for as long as you need. Robert clapped his shoulder hard enough to make Ned wince. Good. We'll root out the rot together. Cersei Lannister stood in her solar, in the moonlight casting her shadow across a map of Westeros. Jaime leaned against the wall, his golden hair glinting, his expression unreadable. He should be dead, Cersei hissed, her fingers tightening around a goblet. That oaf should be rotting, and Joffrey should be king. Instead, we're back to playing the dutiful wife. Jaime shrugged. Robert's tougher than he looks, but he's not immortal. Another hunt? Another accident? No. Cersei's voice was sharp. Not yet. Stark suspects something. He's been watching Lancel, and he's too honorable to let it go. If we move too soon, he'll run to Robert with his precious truth. Jaime's lips twitched. Then we discredit Stark, paint him as a traitor. Robert's fond of him, but he's not blind to ambition. Cersei's eyes gleamed. Or we use the truth to our advantage. Stark knows about Joffrey. If we can't silence him, we make him the villain. A northern lord plotting against the crown. It's a story the court will eat up. Jaime frowned. Risky. If Robert believes him... He won't, Cersei said. Not if we're careful. We need allies. Father will send men from Casterly Rock. Littlefinger can be bought. And Varys will dance to whichever tune keeps his head on his shoulders. Jaime stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. And me? What's my role in this? Cersei's smile was both tender and cruel. You're my sword, Jaime. When the time comes, you'll cut down anyone who stands in our way. Ned Stark sat in his chambers, a single candle flickering against the darkness. The letter he had written to Catelyn lay unfinished, its words heavy with caution. He could not tell her everything. Not yet, but he urged her to strengthen Winterfell's defenses and keep Robb close. A knock at the door startled him. Enter, he called, his hand resting on Ice's hilt. Sir Barristan Selmy stepped inside, his white cloak pristine despite the late hour. Lord Stark, I've news. The gold cloaks have been restless. Jon of Slint's been meeting with men from Casterly Rock. Ned's jaw tightened. Lannister men? Aye, Barristan said. And there's more. The small folk whisper of a royal decree. Robert's planning a tourney to celebrate his recovery. Half the lords in Westeros will come, and with them, their swords. Ned rubbed his temples. A tourney meant chaos, a perfect stage for treachery. Thank you, Sir Barristan. Keep your eyes open. I trust you more than most in this city. Barristan nodded. I serve the king, Lord Stark, and I know an honorable man when I see one. When Barristan left, Ned turned to the window, gazing at the city below. King's Landing was a nest of lies, and Robert, for all his strength, was blind to the danger. Ned's thoughts drifted to Jon Arryn, poisoned for uncovering the same truth Ned now carried. He would not let Robert fall to the same fate. Joffrey Baratheon sulked in his chambers, a golden goblet dented from where he'd thrown it. His mother's words echoed in his mind. Patience, my love. Your time will come. But patience was a cage, and Joffrey was no tame beast. The hound, Sandor Clegane, stood by the door, his scarred face impassive. You're brooding again, boy, he growled. Won't make you king any faster. Joffrey's eyes flashed. Don't call me boy, I'm the prince, and you're nothing but a dog. Sandor snorted. A dog that keeps you alive. You want to play at being king? Start acting like one. Your father's still got years in him, and Stark's sniffing around. You're not safe. Joffrey's lip curled. Stark. That northern fool thinks he can lecture me. I'll have his head one day. Sandor's laugh was a rasp. Try it, and you'll find ice at your throat. Stark's no courtier, he's a killer, same as me. Joffrey's bravado faltered, but only for a moment. Then I'll have you kill him. Or Sir Jaime. Someone will. Sandor shook his head. You're playing a game you don't understand, boy. Keep it up and you'll lose more than a crown. Robert Baratheon stood in the training yard, his warhammer swinging in very slow, deliberate arcs. Sweat glistened on his brow, and the wound in his side ached, but he refused to yield. The court might see a drunken king, but Robert was a warrior still, and he would remind them. Ned watched from the sidelines, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. You're pushing yourself too hard, Robert. Robert grunted, slamming the hammer into a wooden dummy. I'm not dead yet, Ned, and I won't be some fat old man who dies in his bed. The realm's a mess, and I've let it fester too long. Ned hesitated, then spoke. There's something you need to know, Robert. About Joffrey. Robert paused, his hammer lowering. What about the boy? Ned's voice was steady, though his heart raced. He's not your son. None of Cersei's children are. They're Jaime Lannisters. The yard fell silent, save for the distant clatter of armor. Robert's face darkened, his knuckles whitening on the hammer's grip. For a moment, Ned thought he might strike him. You're sure? Robert's voice was a low growl. I am, Ned said. Jon Arryn died for this truth. I have proof. Letters. Witnesses. Cersei's been playing you for a fool. Robert's laughter was bitter, hollow. A fool, I. I've been that and worse. He turned, his eyes blazing. I'll have her head, hers and Jaime's, and those bastard children. Robert, Ned interrupted, his voice firm. Think. If you act rashly, the Lannisters will strike back. Tywin has an army, and Cersei's woven a web in this city. We need to be careful." Robert's chest heaved, but he nodded. "You're right. Gods, Ned, I hate it, but you're right. We'll do this your way, for now, but I want them gone. All of them." Ned clasped his friend's shoulder. "We'll do it together, but we need allies. Stannis, Renley, the Tullys, the Arryns. We can't fight the Lannisters alone." Robert's grin was feral. "Then let's call the banners. The storm's coming, Ned, and I'll be the one to break it." Varys, the master of whisperers, glided through the Red Keep's shadows, his silks whispering against the stone. In a hidden chamber he met with Petyr Baelish, whose mocking smile never reached his eyes. "The king lives," Varys said, his voice soft, "and Stark has told him the truth. The board has shifted." Littlefinger twirled a dagger, its blade catching the candlelight. "A pity. I'd hoped for more chaos, but this has potential. Robert's rage will tear the court apart, and Cersei's desperation will make her sloppy." Varys tilted his head. "And where do you stand, Lord Baelish? With the stag, the lion, or yourself?" Littlefinger's laugh was sharp. "Myself always. Chaos is a ladder, Varys, and I intend to climb it." Varys' smile was enigmatic. "Then climb carefully, my friend. The higher you go, the harder you fall." In Winterfell, Catelyn Stark read Ned's letter, her hands trembling. The words were veiled, but she understood. Danger loomed, and Ned needed her strength. She summoned Robb to her solar, her eldest son's gray eyes mirroring Ned's. "Robb," she said, "your father's in trouble. The Lannisters are plotting, and the king's court is a battlefield. We must be ready." Robb's jaw tightened. "I'll raise the banners. The North will stand with father." Catelyn placed a hand on his arm. "Not yet. We wait for Ned's word, but prepare the men. Train them, arm them, and send word to the Umbers, the Karstarks, the Manderleys. If war comes, we'll need every sword." Robb nodded, his youth tempered by resolve. "I won't let him down, mother." Catelyn's smile was bittersweet. "I know you won't, but pray it doesn't come to that." Robert Baratheon stood in the small council chamber, his warhammer resting against the table like a silent threat. The room was crowded. Ned Stark, Stannis Baratheon, Renly Baratheon, and Sir Barristan Selmy, each man a pillar of the king's fragile alliance. Varys and Pycelle were absent, their excuses thin but accepted. Robert's patience for courtly games was wearing thin. "Tywin Lannister's playing at war," Robert said, his voice a low growl. He jabbed a finger at a map of Westeros where a red pin marked Casterly Rock. "He's mustering men, and I want to know why. Ned, you said you'd send scouts. What have they found?" Ned stepped forward, his expression grim. "My men report Lannister bannermen gathering at the Golden Tooth. Supplies are moving east. Grain, steel, horses. It's not just defense, Robert. Tywin's preparing to march." Stannis' jaw tightened. "Treason! We should summon Tywin to court and demand answers. If he refuses, we seize Casterly Rock." Renly laughed, his voice light but edged. "And start a war we're not ready for? Tywin's no fool, Stannis. He'll have allies, maybe the Tyrells, maybe Dorne. We need to court them first." Robert's fist slammed the table, silencing the room. "Enough! I'm done with dancing around. Ned, you're my hand. Find me proof of Tywin's plans. Stannis, ready Dragonstone's fleet. Renly, charm the Tyrells or whoever else you can. I want the realm behind me when I crush the Lannisters." Ned nodded, though his heart was heavy. "I'll send more men to the Westerlands. Discreetly. We'll have answers soon." Robert's eyes burned with a fire Ned hadn't seen since the rebellion. "Good! And one more thing. Joffrey. I want him watched. If he's not my son, he's a threat. Cersei, too." The room fell silent. Stannis' gaze was cold, Renly's guarded. Sir Barristan shifted, his honor warring with his duty. Ned spoke carefully. "I'll handle it, Robert, but we must be sure before we act. The court's already whispering about you and Cersei. We can't afford a misstep." Robert grunted, unconvinced but trusting Ned's judgment. "Fine. But move fast, Ned. I want this done before the Lannisters make their play." As the council dispersed, Renly lingered, his smile too smooth. Careful, Lord Stark. The court's a dangerous place for honest men. Ned met his gaze unflinching. I've faced worse than court, Lord Renley, and I'm still standing. Cersei Lannister stood in her solar, a goblet of arbor gold in her hand. The room was a fortress of crimson and gold, but she felt like a general under siege. Jaime paced nearby, his white cloak trailing, his impatience a tangible heat. The whispers are spreading, Cersei said, her voice calm but sharp. Stark's a traitor plotting to seize the throne. The small folk believe it, and the lords are starting to listen. Jaime snorted. Whispers won't stop Robert's hammer, or Stark's sword. We need to act, Cersei. Now. Cersei's eyes flashed. And do what? Kill Robert. Kill Stark? That's a war we'd lose. The Baratheons are rallying and the North is stirring. We need to divide them. Jaime stopped pacing, his grin predatory. Then let's give them something to fight over. Expose Joffrey's parentage ourselves. Blame Stark for hiding it. Say he's been plotting to discredit you and take the crown. Cersei's lips curled, but she shook her head. Too risky. Robert would still turn on us. No, we need to weaken their alliance. Stannis and Renly despise each other. Let's use that. And Stark. Stark's honor is his weakness. We'll trap him with it. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lancel Lannister entered, pale and sweating. My lady, Lord Baelish requests an audience. He says it's urgent. Cersei exchanged a glance with Jaime. Send him in. Pater Baelish glided into the room, his mocking smile a permanent fixture. Your Grace, Sir Jaime. I trust I'm not interrupting? Speak, Cersei said, her tone clipped. Littlefinger's eyes gleamed. The court's abuzz with rumors. Stark's disloyalty, Robert's mistrust. I've fanned the flames, as requested, but there's more. Stannis is pushing for Joffrey's arrest, and Renly's whispering to the Tyrells about a new king, himself naturally. Cersei's grip tightened on her goblet. And Stark? Stark's sending men to the Westerlands, Littlefinger said. He's hunting for proof against your father. If he finds it, Robert will call the banners. Jaime's hand went to his sword. Then we stop him. A few dead scouts, a few burned villages. Tywin can cover it. Cersei silenced him with a look. Number let Stark's men go. Father will deal with them. Lord Baelish, keep the rumors alive. And find me something on Renly. Something to turn Robert against him. Littlefinger bowed, his smile widening. As you wish, Your Grace. Chaos is a fine teacher. As he left, Cersei turned to Jaime. We're running out of time. If Stark finds proof, we're finished. We need to strike first. Jaime's grin was feral. Just say the word, and I'll give you Stark's head. Cersei's smile was cold. Patience, my love. His head will come, but not yet. Ned Stark rode out of King's Landing at dawn, a small company of trusted men at his side. Sir Jorah Cassel led the group, his loyalty to House Stark unwavering. Their mission was simple but perilous. Infiltrate the Westerlands, gather evidence of Tywin's muster, and return before the Lannisters could act. The road west was treacherous, winding through hills and forests where bandits and Lannister patrols roamed. Ned's thoughts were heavy, torn between duty and family. He had written to Catelyn urging her to ready the north, but every day away from Winterfell felt like a betrayal of his children. On the third day, they reached the border of the Westerlands. A scout returned, his face grim. My lord, there's a camp ahead. Lannister men, maybe 100. They're guarding a supply train. Ned's jaw tightened. Can we slip past? Not easily, the scout said. They've got outriders, but there's a ravine nearby, and narrow, but it could hide us. Ned weighed the risks. Time was short, and they needed proof. We'll take the ravine. Move quietly. The ravine was a shadowed gash in the earth, its walls slick with moss. The men moved single file, their horses' hooves muffled by cloth. Ned's heart pounded, but he kept his focus sharp. They were close. So close to the truth. Halfway through, a horn blared, arrows rained down, and Lannister men appeared on the ridges above, their crimson cloaks stark against the gray stone. Ambush! Jory shouted, drawing his sword. Ned cursed under his breath. They'd been betrayed. Fight to the ravine's end, he bellowed, unsheathing ice. We break through, or die. The clash was brutal, steel ringing against steel as Ned's men fought for their lives. Jory cut down 2 Lannisters before a spear took him in the chest. Ned roared, his great sword carving a path through the enemy. Blood slicked the ground, but the Starks pushed forward, driven by desperation. When the fighting stopped, half Ned's men were dead, Jory among them. Ned knelt by his captain's body, grief warring with rage. "I'm sorry, Jory," he whispered. "I'll see this through." A surviving scout approached, clutching a bloodied satchel. "My lord, we found this on their commander. Orders from Casterly Rock. Tywin's mobilizing for King's Landing." Ned took the satchel, his resolve hardening. "Then we ride back. Robert needs to know." Robert Baratheon sat in the throne room, the Iron Throne's jagged edges digging into his back. The court was a sea of faces, each hiding its own agenda. Stannis stood to his right, his face carved from stone, while Renley lounged to his left, his charm a shield. Cersei was absent, her excuse a sudden illness, but Robert knew better. The whispers about Ned had reached him, rumors of ambition, of plots to seize power. Robert dismissed them as Lannister lies, but doubt gnawed at him. Ned was his oldest friend, but the court was a poison that could corrupt even the most honorable. A herald announced a visitor, Mace Tyrell, Lord of Highgarden, resplendent in green and gold. "Your Grace," Mace said, bowing low, "the Reach stands with you, as ever. But I hear troubling tales, Lord Stark's men in the Westerlands stirring unrest. Is this your will?" Robert's eyes narrowed. "Ned's doing my bidding, Tyrell. If you've got accusations, speak plain." Mace hesitated, his jowls quivering. "No accusations, Your Grace. Only concern. The realm's uneasy, and Stark's actions could spark war." Stannis' voice cut through. "Lord Stark seeks proof of Lannister treason. If you fear war, Lord Tyrell, perhaps you should question Tywin's muster, not Stark's loyalty." Mace flushed, but Renly stepped in, his tone smooth. "Peace, brothers. Lord Tyrell's right to be cautious. War benefits no one. Let's hear Ned out when he returns." Robert grunted, waving Mace away. "Enough. I'll deal with Ned. Tyrell, keep your men ready. If the Lannisters move, I want the Reach at my back." As Mace retreated, Robert leaned toward Stannis. "What's this about Ned stirring unrest? You hear these rumors, too?" Stannis' gaze was unyielding. "Lannister lies, spread by Cersei's coin. Trust Stark, Robert. He's the only one in the city who doesn't want your throne." Robert nodded, but the seed of doubt remained, a crack in the foundation of his trust. Joffrey Baratheon stormed through the Red Keep, his temper a wildfire. The court's whispers about his mother, his legitimacy, his future, were a constant sting. He found Sansa Stark in the gardens, her auburn hair catching the sunlight, and seized the chance to assert his power. "Sansa!" he said, his voice sharp. "Walk with me." Sansa curtsied, her smile practiced but wary. "Of course, my prince." They strolled through the rose-lined paths, Joffrey's guards trailing at a distance. "Your father's causing trouble," he said, his tone accusatory. "Plotting against my mother, against me. What do you know of it?" Sansa's eyes widened, but she kept her composure. "My father's loyal to the king, Your Grace. He'd never plot against the crown." Joffrey's lip curled. "Loyal? He's a northern savage, and you're naive to believe him. Tell me what he's planning, or I'll have you whipped." Sansa's hands trembled, but she held his gaze. "I know nothing, Your Grace. But I swear my father serves King Robert." Joffrey grabbed her wrist, his grip bruising. "Don't lie to me, girl. I'm the prince, and I'll—" "Enough." Arya's voice rang out as she burst from the bushes, a wooden practice sword in hand. "Let her go, you toad." Joffrey laughed, releasing Sansa and drawing his dagger. "The little wolf wants to play? Come on, then." Before Arya could lunge, Sandor Clegane appeared, his bulk blocking the path. "Put the blade away, boy," he growled. "You're making a fool of yourself." Joffrey's face reddened, but he sheathed the dagger. "This isn't over!" he spat, storming off. Sansa hugged Arya, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Arya, but you shouldn't have—" "He's a monster!" Arya said, glaring at the hound. "Why do you protect him?" Sandor's scarred face twitched. "Because it's my job, little wolf. But don't push your luck." As the sisters hurried away, Sandor watched them go, his thoughts dark. Joffrey was a spark in a dry forest, and the hound wondered how long he could keep the flames at bay. Varys stood in a hidden chamber beneath the Red Keep, his silks whispering as he faced Bronn. The sellsword leaned against a damp wall, flipping a coin. "You've been busy," Varys said, his voice soft. "Lannister patrols ambushed Stark's men. How convenient." Bronn grinned. "Coin talks, fat man. Someone paid to tip off Tywin's men. Wasn't you, was it?" Varys' smile was serene. "I serve the realm, not the Lannisters. But I'm curious. Who paid you?" Bronn pocketed the coin. "A little bird with a mocking smile. Baelish, if you must know. He's stirring the pot, same as you." Varys' eyes narrowed, but his tone remained light. "Lord Baelish is a dangerous friend. Be careful, Bronn. The game's growing deadly." Bronn shrugged. "Long as the gold's good, I'll play. What do you want now?" "Watch Renley," Varys said. "He's courting the Tyrells, but his ambitions go deeper. I need to know his plans." Bronn nodded and slipped into the shadows. Varys lingered, his thoughts a tangle. Littlefinger's moves were bold, but reckless. The realm was a chessboard, and Varys intended to control the pieces. In Winterfell, Robb Stark trained in the yard, his sword flashing as he sparred with Theon Greyjoy. The Ironborn's grin was cocksure, but Robb's focus was iron. The North was preparing for war, and Robb would not falter. Catelyn watched from the battlements, her heart torn. A raven had brought word from Riverrun. Her uncle Brynden Tully was rallying the Riverlands, but Lannister raiders were already probing the borders. The storm was spreading. Maester Luwin approached, a scroll in hand. "My lady, a message from Lord Stark. He's alive, but his men were ambushed. He has proof of Tywin's muster." Catelyn's breath caught. "Is he safe?" "For now," Luwin said. "He's returning to King's Landing, but he urges us to ready the banners." Catelyn nodded, her resolve hardening. "Robb!" she called, descending to the yard. "Your father needs us. Summon the bannermen, Umber, Karstark, Mormont, all of them. The North marches soon." Robb sheathed his sword, his grey eyes fierce. "I'll lead them, mother, for father, for the North." Theon laughed, clapping Robb's shoulder. "And I'll be at your side, Stark. Let's show the Lannisters what iron and ice can do." Catelyn's smile was grim. "Be careful, both of you. This war will test us all." Ned Stark rode into King's Landing at dusk, his men battered but alive. The satchel of Lannister orders was strapped to his side, its contents a weapon more deadly than ice. The city was a powder keg, and Ned carried the spark. He went straight to Robert, finding him in the throne room with Stannis and Sir Barristan. "Robert," Ned said, tossing the satchel onto the table. "Tywin's mustering an army for King's Landing. These orders prove it." Robert's face darkened as he read the documents. "Treason!" he growled. "The old lion thinks he can challenge me. He'll learn what happens to traitors." Stannis' voice was cold. "Summon Tywin to court. If he refuses, we march." Ned hesitated. "We need allies, Robert. The Tyrells, the Martells. Without them, we're outnumbered." Robert nodded, his rage tempered by strategy. "Renly's working on the Tyrells. Ned, send ravens to Dorne. And Stannis, ready the fleet. If Tywin wants war, I'll give him one." As Ned left to draft the ravens, a shadow moved in the corridor. Littlefinger, his smile a blade. "Lord Stark," he said, "you've stirred the hornet's nest. Be careful where you step." Ned's hand rested on ice. "I'm done with games, Baelish. Stand with us or get out of my way." Littlefinger's laugh was soft, dangerous. "Oh, I'll stand, Lord Stark. But not where you expect." Robert Baratheon sat upon the Iron Throne, his massive frame dwarfing its cruel edges. His warhammer leaned against the dais, a silent promise of violence. The throne room was a sea of faces, lords and ladies, knights and schemers, their loyalties as fluid as the Blackwater. Ned Stark stood at Robert's right, his grey eyes scanning the crowd for signs of treachery. Stannis Baratheon, rigid as iron, flanked the king's left, while Renly's easy smile hid a calculating mind. Cersei Lannister sat among the court, her golden gown a beacon of defiance, her son Joffrey at her side, his petulant sneer, a mirror of her own. A herald's voice cut through the tension. Lord Tywin Lannister, summoned by his grace, King Robert Baratheon, first of his name. The great doors creaked open, but Tywin did not appear. Instead, Sir Kevan Lannister, Tywin's brother, strode forward, his crimson cloak sweeping the marble floor. He bowed, but his eyes were wary, meeting Robert's glare with measured calm. "Where's Tywin?" Robert's voice was a low growl filling the hall. "I called for the lion, not his shadow." Kevin's tone was steady. "My brother is detained at Casterly Rock, your grace. He sends his loyalty and begs your patience. The Westerlands face threats, bandits, unrest. He prepares only to defend his lands." Robert's laugh was a thunderclap. "Defend? I've got orders from your brother's own hand mustering an army for King's Landing. That's treason, Sir Kevin. Speak plain, or I'll have you in chains." Ned stepped forward, his voice calm but unyielding. "Sir Kevin, we have proof of your brother's plans. If he's loyal, let him come to court and swear it before the king. If not, the realm will hold him to account." Kevin's gaze flickered to Cersei, who sat motionless, her smile a blade. The court held its breath, sensing the weight of the moment. "Lord Tywin serves the crown," Kevin said carefully. "He will answer your summons, your grace, but he requires time to settle his lands." "Time?" Robert's fist slammed the throne's arm, drawing blood. "He's got a week to bend the knee, or I'll march west and burn Casterly Rock to ash. Tell him that." The court erupted in murmurs, fear and ambition rippling through the crowd. Cersei's eyes gleamed, her composure unbroken. Stannis nodded grimly while Renly's smile tightened, his mind already spinning new strategies. Ned felt the spark ignite. This was the moment that would plunge the realm into war. As Kevin was escorted out, Robert leaned toward Ned, his voice low. "Cersei's too quiet, Ned. Her and that whelp Joffrey. They're plotting. I want them watched day and night." Ned nodded, his heart heavy. "I'll see to it, Robert. But we need allies. The Tyrells, Dorne. Without them, Tywin's numbers will crush us." Robert grunted. "Renly's sweet-talking the Tyrells. You handle Dorne. And Ned, those rumors about you plotting against me? I don't believe 'em, but the court's whispering. Squash them, or we'll have bigger problems." Ned's jaw tightened. "I'll deal with it, Robert. We'll face this together." But as he left the throne room, Ned felt the weight of 1,000 eyes. Some loyal, some treacherous, and all hungry for the chaos to come. Cersei Lannister stood in her solar, a goblet of arbor gold in her hand, its surface trembling with her suppressed rage. Jaime paced nearby, his white cloak stained with sweat from the training yard. Lancel Lannister hovered by the door, his nervous glances darting between the siblings. "Father won't come," Cersei said, her voice low and sharp. "He'll defy Robert, and war will follow. We're exposed here, Jaime, surrounded by enemies." Jaime's grin was feral. "Let Robert march west. Father will bleed his army dry in the passes. We'll deal with Stark and the Baratheons here." Cersei's eyes flashed. "And leave Joffrey's claim to the mercy of this viper's nest? Number, we need to strike first. In King's Landing." Lancel cleared his throat, his voice trembling. "The court's talking, my lady. They say Lord Stark's plotting to seize the throne, to discredit you and the prince." Cersei's lips curled. "Littlefinger's doing his part, then. But whispers aren't enough. We need something solid, proof to turn Robert against Stark for good." Jaime stopped pacing, his hand resting on his sword. "Give me an hour, and I'll bring you Stark's head. No proof needed." Cersei silenced him with a look. "Killing Stark now would rally the North and the Riverlands. We need him broken, not dead. Lancel, go to Littlefinger. Tell him to forge a letter, something tying Stark to a plot against Robert. Make it convincing." Lancel nodded, scurrying out. Jaime stepped closer, his voice low. "You're playing with fire, Cersei. If Robert suspects us—" "He won't," Cersei said, her tone fierce. "Not if we're careful. Father's army will keep Robert occupied, and we'll dismantle his allies here. Joffrey's my son, Jaime. I'll tear this city apart before I let them take him." Jaime's eyes softened, but his grin returned. "Then let's tear it down together." As they embraced, Cersei's thoughts turned to Tywin. Kevin's appearance was a message. Her father was preparing for war, but he expected her to hold the capital. She would have to be the lion now, and her claws were ready. Ned Stark rode out of King's Landing under cover of darkness, a small band of loyal men at his side. Sir Roderick Cassel, grizzled and steadfast, led the group, their mission clear: secure Dorne's allegiance, and counter the rumors poisoning Ned's name. The Martells were a wild card, their hatred for the Lannisters matched only by their distrust of the crown. And Ned carried a letter for Doran Martell outlining Tywin's treason, and offering an alliance against Casterly Rock. The road south was fraught with danger, Lannister spies, bandits, and the ever-present threat of betrayal. Ned's thoughts were heavy, torn between duty and family. He had written to Catelyn, urging her to ready the north, but every mile away from Winterfell felt like a wound. The loss of Jory Cassell in the Westerlands ambush still stung, a reminder of the cost of this game. On the 5th day, they reached the Red Mountains, where a Dornish patrol intercepted them. The leader, a lean man with sun-darkened skin, eyed Ned warily. "Lord Stark, we've had your ravens. Prince Doran's at Sunspear. He'll hear you, but he makes no promises." Ned nodded, his voice steady. "Take us to him. The realm's at stake." Sunspear was a blaze of color and heat, its sandstone walls glowing under the sun. Doran Martell received Ned in a shaded courtyard, his gout-swollen legs propped on cushions. His daughter Arianne stood nearby, her dark eyes assessing. "Lord Stark," Doran said, his voice soft but sharp. "You bring tales of Lannister treason. Why should Dorne trust you? The Baratheons have given us little but grief." Ned met his gaze. "Tywin Lannister plots war against the king. His men killed my own in the Westerlands, and his daughter schemes in King's Landing. Join us, and we'll bring him down. Together." Doran's smile was faint. "Vengeance is a heady wine, but costly. What does Robert offer Dorne?" Ned hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Justice for Elia and her children, a voice in the new court, and a chance to weaken the Lannisters for good." Arianne's eyes flashed. "Bold words, Lord Stark, but the court whispers you're a traitor plotting against the king. Why should we believe you?" Ned's jaw tightened. "Those are Lannister lies, spread to divide us. I serve Robert and I serve the realm. Judge me by my actions, not rumors." Doran studied him, his silence heavy. "I'll consider your offer, Lord Stark. Stay as my guest, but know this. Dorne moves when Dorne is ready." Ned bowed, sensing the delicate balance. He had planted a seed, but whether it would grow was beyond his control. Robert Baratheon stood in the training yard, his warhammer swinging in slow, deliberate arcs. Sweat glistened on his brow, and the wound from the boar hunt ached, but he refused to yield. The court might see a king past his prime, but Robert was reclaiming the warrior who had shattered a dynasty. Stannis watched from the sidelines, his arms crossed, his face a mask of disapproval. "You're pushing yourself too hard, Robert. The realm needs you alive, not dead from exhaustion." Robert grunted, slamming the A-wooden dummy. "I'm not some frail old man, Stannis, and I'm done letting snakes like Cersei run my court. Ned's in Dorne, and I need to know who's with me." Stannis' voice was cold. "The court's whispering about Stark. They say he's plotting to seize power, using Tywin's treason as a pretext." Robert paused, his hammer lowering. "Ned? Plotting? That's Lannister bullshit, and you know it." "Do I?" Stannis' eyes narrowed. "He's honorable, but honor can blind a man. He's got the North behind him, and Robb Stark's raising an army. If he turns on you—" "He won't," Robert snapped, but doubt flickered in his eyes. The rumors were persistent, and even a king couldn't ignore them forever. Renley approached, his doublet pristine despite the yard's dust. "Stannis, you're gloomier than a storm cloud. Ned's loyal, more than most in this city. Let's focus on the Tyrells. Mace is wavering, but Margaery's keen to be queen." Robert's grin was grim. "Good. Get me the reach, Renley. And Stannis, ready the fleet. If Tywin moves, we hit him from the land and sea." As his brothers departed, Robert's thoughts turned to Cersei. Her absence from court was a calculated move, and Joffrey's sullen presence was a constant irritant. The king's trust in Ned held, but the seed of doubt was taking root, watered by the court's endless whispers. Joffrey Baratheon sulked in his chambers, a golden goblet dented from where he'd thrown it. The court's rumors about his mother, his legitimacy, his future, were a constant humiliation. His mother's promises of power felt empty, and his father's survival was a chain he couldn't break. The hound, Sandor Clegane, stood by the door, his scarred face impassive. "You're brooding again, boy," he growled. "Won't make you king any faster." Joffrey's eyes flashed. "Don't call me boy. I'm the prince, and you're a dog who serves me." Sandor snorted. A dog that keeps you from getting your throat cut. Stark sniffing around and your mother's playing games she might not win. You're not safe. Joffrey's lip curled. Stark. That northern fool thinks he can lecture me. I'll have him flayed. I'll have his daughters. You'll do nothing, Sandor said, stepping closer. You're not king, and you're not ready to play this game. Keep pushing, and you'll end up dead. Joffrey's bravado faltered, but he rallied. You're sworn to me, dog. Do as I say, or I'll have your head. Sandor's laugh was a rasp. Try it, and you'll see what a dog's bite feels like. Joffrey recoiled, his courage failing. He stormed out, Ser Meryn Trant trailing behind. Sandor watched him go, his thoughts dark. The boy was a spark in a dry forest, and the hound wondered how long he could keep the flames contained. Varys stood in a shadowed alley near the Street of Silk, disguised as a beggar, his silks replaced by rags. Bronn leaned against a wall, flipping a dagger, his eyes sharp. You're keeping busy, Varys said, his voice soft. Lannister spies knew Stark's route in the Westerlands. Someone's feeding them information. Bronn grinned. Coin talks, fat man. Someone paid to tip off Tywin's men. Not my doing, but I know who. Varys' smile was serene. Enlighten me. Littlefinger, Bronn said, pocketing the dagger. He's stirring the pot, playing Stark against the Lannisters. Wants chaos, not victory. Varys' eyes narrowed, but his tone remained light. Lord Baelish is a dangerous ally. What else do you know? Bronn shrugged. Renly's cozying up to the Tyrells, but he's got his own plans. Talks of a crown, not for Robert. Want me to dig deeper? Varys nodded. Watch Renly closely. And Cersei, she's desperate, and desperate women make mistakes. Bronn slipped into the night, leaving Varys to his thoughts. Littlefinger's moves were bold, but reckless. The realm was a chessboard, and Varys would ensure the pieces fell where they belonged. In Winterfell, Robb Stark stood in the Great Hall, his bannermen gathered around a scarred table. Greatjon Umber's voice boomed, demanding action, while Rose Bolton's cold eyes assessed every word. Catelyn watched from the sidelines, her heart torn between pride and fear. Father's in Dorne, Robb said, his voice steady. He's got proof of Lannister treason, but the court's turning against him. We need to be ready to march. Greatjon slammed a fist on the table. Let's march now. The North will crush those golden bastards. Roos's voice was soft, precise. Patience, my lord. March too soon, and we risk the Riverlands. Wait for Lord Stark's word. Robb nodded, weighing their counsel. We prepare, but we hold until father calls. Train the men, stock the granaries, fortify the castles. When the time comes, the North will answer. Catelyn stepped forward, her voice firm. And send word to my uncle Brynden. The Riverlands are vulnerable. Lannister raiders are already striking. Robb met her gaze, a silent vow passing between them. We'll protect father, mother, whatever it takes. Theon Greyjoy, leaning against a pillar, grinned. And I'll be at your side, Stark. Let's show the Lannisters what iron and ice can do. Catelyn's smile was grim. Be careful, Theon. This war will test us all. In Sunspear, Ned Stark sat with Doran Martell, the tension between them palpable. Arianne Martell lounged nearby, her presence a reminder of Dorne's strength. The courtyard was quiet, save for the rustle of palm fronds in the breeze. You ask much, Lord Stark, Doran said, his voice soft but unyielding. To join your war is to risk Dorne's blood. Tywin's no fool. He'll strike us if we move. Ned leaned forward, his voice earnest. Tywin's already moving. His army threatens the realm, and Cersei's schemes threaten the court. Stand with us, and we'll end their power. For Elia, for Dorne. Arianne's eyes gleamed. And what of the rumors, Lord Stark? They say you plot against the king, using Tywin's treason as a mask. How do we trust you? Ned's hand tightened on Ice's hilt. Those are lies, spread by Cersei and her allies. My loyalty is to Robert and the realm. Judge me by my deeds, not whispers. Doran's gaze was unreadable. I'll send word to my bannermen, Lord Stark. Dorne will prepare, but will not commit until the time is right. Stay another day. Let us show you our hospitality. Ned bowed, sensing the delicate balance. He had won a chance, but Dorne's allegiance was far from certain. Robert Baratheon stood in the Red Keep's war room, A map of Westeros spread before him, its edges curling from use. His warhammer rested against the table, its head gleaming with fresh polish. Ned Stark stood at his side, his face etched with fatigue from the Dornish journey. Stannis Baratheon, grim and unyielding, marked positions on the map, while Renly's easy smile masked a restless ambition. Sir Barristan Selmy, ever the loyal Kingsguard, stood watch, his white cloak a beacon of honor in a room thick with tension. "Tywin's had his week," Robert growled, his voice a rumble of thunder. "Keevan's back at Casterly Rock, and there's no word from the old lion. He's chosen war." Ned nodded, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "My scouts report Lannister forces massing at the Golden Tooth. They're fortifying the passes. Tywin means to hold the Westerlands and strike east when ready." Stannis' jaw tightened. "We should march now. Take the Riverlands, cut off Tywin's supply lines, and storm Casterly Rock before he can rally his allies." Renly laughed, his tone light but sharp. "And leave King's Landing exposed? Tywin's not the only threat, Stannis. Cersei's still here, and the court's a powder keg. We need the Tyrells and Dorne first." Robert's eyes narrowed, his patience fraying. "The Tyrells Dorne. Everyone wants to play cautious while Tywin sharpens his claws. Ned, what did Doran Martell say? Will he fight?" Ned chose his words carefully. "Doran's considering our offer. He hates the Lannisters, but he's cautious. He'll prepare his forces, but he won't commit until he's sure of victory." Stannis snorted. "Typical. The Martells sit in their sands while the realm bleeds. We don't have time for their games." "Enough," Robert snapped, slamming a fist on the table. "Ned, keep pressing Dorne. Renly, get me the Tyrells. Promise Mace a crown for his daughter if you have to. Stannis, ready the fleet. We'll hit Tywin from land and sea, and I want Cersei and Joffrey locked down. Ned, you're on that." Ned's heart sank. Watching Cersei meant confronting the truth about Joffrey's parentage, a truth Robert was not yet ready to reveal. "I'll handle it, Robert, but we need to move carefully. The court's already whispering about me. Rumors of treason. Cersei's behind them." Robert's face darkened. "I know the rumors, Ned. I don't believe them, but they're spreading like wildfire. Find the source and crush it. I need you at my side, not fighting shadows." Ned nodded, though the weight of suspicion pressed against him. "I'll find the truth, Robert. We'll face this together." As the council dispersed, Renly lingered, his smile too knowing. "Careful, Lord Stark. The court's a dangerous place for honest men, and those rumors aren't going away." Ned met his gaze unflinching. "I've faced worse than whispers, Lord Renly, and I'm still here." Cersei Lannister stood in her solar, the forged letter in her hand, a masterpiece of Littlefinger's cunning, its script mimicking Ned Stark's hand. It outlined a plot to depose Robert, naming Ned as the architect and the North as his weapon. The parchment was a lie, but a convincing one, laced with just enough truth to make the court believe it. Cersei's smile was a blade, sharp and cold. Jaime leaned against the wall, his white cloak pristine despite the hour. "It's bold," he said, eyeing the letter, "but risky. If Robert doesn't bite, we're exposed." Cersei's eyes gleamed. "He'll bite? The court's already primed. Littlefinger's whispers have seen to that. Robert trusts Stark, but doubts a poison. This will break them." A knock at the door interrupted them. Lancel Lannister entered, pale and trembling. "My lady, Lord Baelish is here. He says it's urgent." Cersei nodded, and Peter Baelish glided into the room, his mocking smile a permanent fixture. "Your Grace, Sir Jaime. The letter's ready, as promised. I've planted it with a gold cloak captain, Janos Slint's man. He'll discover it tonight, during a patrol." Cersei's lips curled. "And the court will believe it came from Stark?" Littlefinger's eyes twinkled. "Oh, they will eat it up. Slint's man will swear he found it in Stark's chambers. The court loves a scandal, and Stark's honor makes him the perfect villain." Jaime's grin was predatory. "And when Robert turns on Stark, what then?" Cersei answered, her voice low. "We strike. With Stark disgraced, Robert's allies fracture. Father's army will handle the rest." Littlefinger bowed, his smile widening. "A pleasure, as always, Your Grace. But a word of caution. Stannis is watching, and he's no fool. Keep him occupied." As Littlefinger left, Cersei turned to Jaime. We need to move fast. If Stark suspects, he'll counter. And Joffrey, gods, that boy's a liability. Jaime's hand brushed hers. Let me handle Joffrey. And Stark, if it comes to it. You focus on the court. Cersei nodded, her resolve hardening. Do it! The lion doesn't kneel, Jaime. Not to Robert, not to anyone. Ned Stark sat in his chambers, a single candle casting shadows across a stack of scrolls. The Dornish mission had yielded hope, but no certainty, and the rumors of his treason were growing louder. He had tasked Arya with watching Janos Slint, trusting her stealth, but the thought of his daughter in danger gnawed at him. A letter from Catelyn lay open, its words a lifeline. The North was ready, Robb was strong, and the Riverlands were rallying under Brian and Tully. But war was coming, and Ned feared he might not see Winterfell again. A knock at the door broke his thoughts. "Enter!" he called, his hand resting on Ice's hilt. Sir Barristan semi-stepped inside, his face grim. "Lord Stark, there's trouble. One of my men overheard Janos Slint talking. Something about a letter found in your chambers. They're saying it's proof of treason." Ned's blood ran cold. "A letter? I've written no such thing. This is Cersei's doing." Barristan nodded. "I thought as much. But Slint's moving fast. He's taking it to the king tonight. You need to act, my lord." Ned rose, his mind racing. "Thank you, Sir Barristan. Can you stall Slint? I need time to find the source." Barristan's eyes were steady. "I'll do what I can, but be careful, Lord Stark. The court's turning against you." As Barristan left, Ned summoned his men, loyal Stark retainers hardened by the North. "Find Arya," he ordered. "She's watching Slint, and search the Gold Cloaks barracks. Look for anything that ties them to the Lannisters." The men nodded, dispersing into the night. Ned turned to the window, gazing at the city below. King's Landing was a trap, and Cersei was tightening the noose. He would have to move carefully or lose everything. Robert Baratheon stood on the Red Keep's battlements, the sea wind tugging at his cloak. The city sparkled below, but its beauty hid a rot he could no longer ignore. Stannis joined him, his presence a stark contrast to the king's restless energy. "The fleet's ready," Stannis said, his voice clipped. "Dragonstone's ships can blockade the Westerlands within a fortnight, but we need the Tyrells, Robert. Renly's stalling." Robert grunted, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Renly's playing his own game, as always." "What about Ned? You hear these rumors, treason, plots, you believe 'em?" Stannis' gaze was unyielding. Number Stark's honorable to a fault. But honor can make a man predictable. Cersei's using that against him. Robert's jaw tightened. "Ned's my friend, Stannis. He's been loyal since the rebellion, but these whispers, they're everywhere. If there's truth to 'em—" "There isn't," Stannis cut in. "Cersei's desperate. She knows you're closing in on her bastard son. This is her counterstrike." Robert's eyes flashed. "Joffrey! Gods, I should have seen it. And Cersei's been a viper in my bed, and I let her slither free. Ned warned me, and now he's caught in her web." Stannis nodded. "Trust Stark, but protect him. If the court turns, he'll need you to hold the line." Robert clapped his brother's shoulder, a rare gesture. "You're right for once. I'll back Ned, but if Cersei's behind this, I'll have her head." As Stannis departed, Robert's thoughts turned to the war ahead. Tywin's army loomed, and the court was fracturing. He needed Ned, now more than ever. But doubt lingered, a shadow he couldn't shake. Joffrey Baratheon paced his chambers, his temper a wildfire. The court's whispers about his mother, his legitimacy, his future, were a constant sting. He had overheard Sansa Stark speaking with her septa, her words laced with pity for poor Joffrey. The humiliation burned. The Hound stood by the door, his scarred face impassive. "You're making a spectacle, boy," he growled. "Calm down, or you'll give your enemies more to work with." Joffrey whirled, his voice venomous. "Don't call me boy. I'm the prince, and I'll have respect." Sandor snorted. "Respect's earned, not demanded. You're acting like a fool, and Stark's daughters are watching. Keep this up, and you'll lose more than your temper." Joffrey's eyes narrowed. "Sansa. That simpering girl thinks she's better than me. I'll show her. I'll show them all." Sandor stepped closer, his voice low. "Leave the Stark girls alone. You touch them, and you'll have Ned's great sword at your throat. You're not king yet, and you might never be." Joffrey's face reddened, but fear flickered in his eyes. "You're sworn to me, dog. Do as I say, or I'll—" "You'll what?" Sandor's laugh was a rasp. "Cry to your mother? She's got enough problems. Sit down and shut up, or I'll make you." Joffrey recoiled, his courage crumbling. He slumped into a chair, muttering threats but taking no action. Sandor watched him, his thoughts dark. The boy was a liability, and the Hound wondered how long Cersei could keep him leashed. Varys stood in a hidden chamber beneath the Red Keep, his silks whispering against the damp stone. Bronn lounged nearby, sharpening a dagger, his eyes glinting with amusement. "You're stirring trouble," Varys said, his voice soft. "That letter Cersei's waving around, it's your work, isn't it?" Bronn grinned. "Not mine, but I know who. Littlefinger's got a knack for forgery. He's playing Cersei against Stark and laughing all the way." Varys' smile was serene. "Lord Baelish thrives on chaos, but chaos serves no one if the realm burns. What else do you know?" Bronn leaned back, twirling the dagger. "Renly's whispering to Loras Tyrell about a crown. Not Robert's, but his own. And Cersei's got Jaina Slint in her pocket. She's planning something big." Varys nodded, his mind a web of possibilities. "Watch Slint closely, and Renly. His ambitions could tip the balance. Report to me, and the gold will flow." Bronn pocketed the dagger and slipped into the shadows. Varys lingered, his thoughts turning to the realm's future. Cersei's trap was clever but flawed. He would ensure it ensnared the right prey. In Winterfell, Robb Stark stood in the yard, his sword flashing as he sparred with Theon Greyjoy. The Ironborn's grin was cocksure, but Robb's focus was iron. The north was a hive of activity, bannermen drilling, granaries filling, and ravens flying to every holdfast. War was coming, and Robb would be ready. Catelyn watched from the battlements, her heart torn between pride and fear. A raven had brought word from Ned. He was back in King's Landing, facing a court turned against him. The Riverlands were under attack, Lannister raiders striking villages and burning crops. The time for waiting was over. Maester Luwin approached, a scroll in hand. "My lady, a message from Sir Brynden Tully. He's holding the Red Fork, but Lannister forces are pressing hard. He needs men." Catelyn's jaw tightened. "Robb!" she called, descending to the yard. "Your uncle needs us. Summon the banners. Umber, Karstark, Mormont, all of them. We march south." Robb sheathed his sword, his grey eyes fierce. "I'll lead them, mother, for father, for the north." Theon clapped Robb's shoulder, grinning. "And I'll be right beside you, Stark. Let's give the Lannisters a taste of iron." Catelyn's smile was bittersweet. "Be careful, both of you. This war will demand everything we have." Ned Stark stood in the Red Keep's courtyard, his men returning with grim news. Arya had been found, safe but shaken, her report confirming Barristan's warning. Jaina Slint was presenting a letter to Robert, claiming it was Ned's. The Gold Cloaks barracks had yielded Lannister gold, proof of Slint's corruption, but it might not be enough. Ned marched to the throne room, ice at his side. Robert sat on the Iron Throne, Janos Slint before him, a parchment in his hand. The court was packed, Cersei's golden presence a silent threat. Ned's heart pounded, but his resolve was steel. "Your Grace," Slint said, his voice oily. "This letter was found in Lord Stark's chambers. It speaks of a plot to depose you and claim the throne for the north." The court gasped, whispers rippling like wildfire. Robert's eyes narrowed, his gaze shifting to Ned. "Ned, what's this about?" Ned stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "A lie, Robert. That letter's a forgery, planted by Cersei and her allies. I've proof. Lannister gold in Slint's barracks and witnesses to his treachery." Cersei rose, her voice dripping with feigned shock. "Lord Stark accuses me to save himself? Your Grace, this is treason, plain and simple." Ned met her gaze unflinching. "The treason is yours, Your Grace. You've poisoned the court against me to hide your own secrets, secrets about your son." The hall fell silent, the weight of Ned's words a thunderclap. Robert's face darkened, his hand tightening on the throne's arm. "Enough!" he roared. "Slint, you're confined until we sort this. Ned, Cersei, my chambers now. We end this tonight." As the court dispersed, Ned felt Cersei's eyes on him, her hatred a palpable force. The trap had sprung, but he had turned it back on her for now. The truth about Joffrey loomed, and Ned knew the next move would decide everything. Robert Baratheon stood in his private chambers, the Iron Throne's shadow replaced by the flickering light of a brazier. His warhammer rested against the wall, its head stained with the promise of blood. Ned Stark stood before him, his gray eyes steady but weary. Cersei Lannister faced them, her golden gown a stark contrast to the room's grim mood. Jaime Lannister, summoned from his Kingsguard duties, stood at her side, his hand resting on his sword. The air was thick with unspoken truths, each word a spark that could set the realm ablaze. "You've got one chance, Cersei," Robert growled, his voice a low thunder. "Ned says you're behind the lies about him. Forged letters, gold cloaks in your pocket. Speak, or I'll have your head." Cersei's smile was a blade, sharp and defiant. "Lies, your grace. Lord Stark accuses me to deflect from his own treachery. He's been plotting against you, rallying the North to seize the throne." Ned's voice was calm but unyielding. "The letter was a forgery, Robert. Janos Slint's men were paid with Lannister gold. I have witnesses. Cersei's desperate because I know the truth about Joffrey." Robert's eyes narrowed, his fists clenching. "What truth, Ned? Say it plain." Ned hesitated, the weight of the moment crushing. "Joffrey's not your son. None of Cersei's children are. They're Jaime Lannister's." The room froze. Cersei's composure cracked, her eyes flashing with fury. Jaime's hand tightened on his sword, his grin gone. Robert's face reddened, his rage a storm breaking free. "You whore!" Robert roared, lunging toward Cersei. Ned stepped between them, his hand raised. "Robert, stop!" Ned said, his voice firm. "Killing her now starts a war we can't win. Tywin's marching. We need to be united." Cersei seized the moment, her voice venomous. "You see, your grace? Stark protects me because he wants the throne for himself. He's the traitor, not I." Jaime drew his sword an inch, his eyes locked on Ned. "Say that again, Stark, and I'll cut you down." Robert's hand shot to his warhammer, but Ned held his ground. "Enough! Robert, I've proof. Letters, witnesses, John Arryn's notes. Cersei's been lying to you for years, but we need to act wisely, not in rage." Robert's chest heaved, his eyes burning with betrayal. "Ned, you're sure of this?" "I am," Ned said, "but we can't move yet. Arrest Cersei and Jaime quietly. Send Joffrey to the wall. If we act rashly, Tywin will burn the realm." Robert nodded, his rage tempered by Ned's counsel. "All right, Ned. Cersei, Jaime, you're confined to your quarters until I decide your fate. Guards." Kingsguard knights stepped forward, their faces grim. Cersei's eyes blazed, but she said nothing, sweeping out with Jaime at her side. As the door closed, Robert turned to Ned, his voice low. "You've never steered me wrong, Ned. But this cuts deep. If you're lying, I'll kill you myself." Ned met his gaze, unflinching. "I'm not, Robert. We'll see this through." Cersei Lannister stood in her confined quarters, a gilded cage within the Red Keep. The windows were barred, the doors guarded, but her mind was a weapon sharper than any blade. Jaime sat nearby, his white cloak discarded, his expression a mix of defiance and despair. "They know," Cersei hissed, pacing like a caged lion. "Stark's won this round, but I'm not finished. Father's army is coming, and Robert's cord is fracturing." Jaime's grin was bitter. "Robert's got us locked up, and Ned's got his ear. We're running out of moves, Cersei." Cersei whirled, her eyes blazing. "We're never out of moves. Littlefinger's still out there, right? And Varys plays his own game. We need to turn Robert's allies against him, starting with Renley." Jaime raised an eyebrow. "Renley? He's too busy chasing Tyrell's skirts to care about us." "Exactly," Cersei said, her voice low. "He wants the throne, Jaime. Littlefinger's hinted at it. If we can push him to act, he'll split the Baratheon alliance. Robert will be too busy fighting his brother to deal with father." A knock at the door interrupted them. A guard slipped in a note through the bars and then retreated. Cersei unfolded it, her lips curling as she read Littlefinger's script. "The court wavers. Plant the seed with Renley. Chaos is your ally." Cersei burned the note in a candle's flame, her resolve hardening. "Find a way to get a message to Littlefinger," she told Jaime. "Tell him to whisper in Renly's ear. Promise him the Tyrells, the crown, whatever he wants." Jaime nodded, his grin returning. And Joffrey? The boy's a wildfire waiting to burn. Cersei's eyes softened, but only for a moment. Joffrey's my son. I'll protect him, even if it means burning this city to the ground. Ned Stark stood in the Red Keep's Godswood, the heart tree's red leaves a stark contrast to the city's stone. Arya sat beside him, her dirt-streaked face set with determination. She had escaped the Gold Cloak's notice, her report on Slint's treachery a lifeline in the court's chaos. "You did well, Arya," Ned said, his voice soft but heavy. "But this is getting more dangerous. I want you and Sansa safe." Arya's eyes flashed. "I'm not leaving you, Father. I can help. I can watch, listen, fight if I have to." Ned's smile was bittersweet. "You're brave, like your Aunt Lyanna. But this is a war, Arya, and I won't lose you to it. Stay close, but stay hidden." Arya nodded reluctantly, then darted off to check on Sansa. Ned turned to the heart tree, his thoughts a tangle of duty and fear. Cersei and Jaime were confined, but Tywin's army was a growing threat, and the court's distrust of him lingered. He needed allies, Dorne, the Tyrells, anyone who could tip the balance. A rustle in the leaves broke his reverie. Sir Barristan Selmy emerged, his white cloak gleaming in the moonlight. "Lord Stark, there's news. Renly's meeting with Loras Tyrell tonight, in secret. My men overheard talk of a crown, not Robert's." Ned's jaw tightened. "Renly's playing his own game. We need to know his plans. Can you get someone close?" Barristan nodded. "I'll handle it. But be wary, my lord. The court's ready to explode, and Cersei's confinement won't stop her." Ned clasped Barristan's shoulder. "Thank you, sir. Keep Robert safe. He's the only thing holding this realm together." As Barristan left, Ned's thoughts turned to Robb. His son was marching south, a young wolf leading a pack of hardened Northmen. Ned prayed he could end this before Robb's army reached the battlefield. Renly Baratheon stood in a shadowed chamber, Loras Tyrell at his side, their voices low. The Tyrell knight's armor gleamed, but his eyes were fierce, mirroring Renly's ambition. A single candle cast flickering shadows across the walls, hiding their words from prying ears. "Robert's losing the court," Renly said, his voice smooth but urgent. "Ned's fighting shadows, and Cersei's a caged lion. This is our chance, Loras." Loras's lips twitched. "A chance for what? Robert's still king, and Stannis is next in line. You think the realm will follow you?" Renly's smile was confident. "The realm follows strength, not law. Stannis is a hammer, not a king. I've got the Tyrells, the Stormlands, and half the court's favor. If Robert falls, I'm the one they'll crown." Loras hesitated, his loyalty to his house warring with his love for Renly. "My father's close to pledging to Robert. Margaery wants to be queen, by Robert's side, not yours." Renly's hand brushed Loras's. "Then convince Mace otherwise. Margaery can be my queen, and you'll be at my side. Together we'll remake Westeros." A knock at the door startled them. A cloaked figure slipped inside. Littlefinger, his mocking smile a beacon of treachery. "Lord Renly, Sir Loras. I trust I'm not interrupting?" Renly's eyes narrowed. "What do you want, Baelish?" Littlefinger's voice was soft, dangerous. "To offer you a path to the throne. Cersei's desperate. She will back you if you move against Robert. The Tyrells will follow if you promise them power." Loras's hand went to his sword, but Renly stopped him. "And what's your price, Littlefinger?" Littlefinger's smile widened. "Chaos, my lord. It's a fine currency. Act soon or Stannis will steal your chance." As Littlefinger vanished, Renly turned to Loras, his resolve hardening. "We move carefully, but we move. The crown's within reach." Joffrey Baratheon slipped through the Red Keep's servant passages, his heart pounding with defiance. His mother's confinement was a humiliation, and Robert's dismissal of him as a bastard burned like acid. He had overheard Sansa Stark weeping to her septa, her pity for him a final insult. Joffrey would show them all. He was a lion, not a stag. The hound trailed him, his scarred face a mask of irritation. "Where are you going, boy?" he growled. "Your mother told you to stay put." Joffrey's eyes flashed. "I'm the prince, dog. I go where I please. I'm going to Sansa. She'll learn to respect me." Sandor's laugh was a rasp. "You're a fool if you think that girl's your ally. She's Stark's daughter, and you're a marked man. Turn back or I'll drag you. Joffrey drew a dagger, his hand trembling. Touch me, and I'll have your head. Sandor stepped closer, unfazed. Try it, and you'll be the one bleeding. Go back to your mother, boy, before you start a war you can't finish. Joffrey's courage faltered, but his rage held. He turned and fled down the passage, Sandor cursing behind him. The prince's mind raced. He would find Sansa, force her to kneel, and prove he was no bastard. But the Red Keep was a labyrinth, and danger lurked in every shadow. Varys stood in a tavern near the Street of Steel, disguised as a merchant, his bald head hidden by a coarse wig. Bronn sat across from him sipping ale, his eyes sharp with amusement. You're playing a dangerous game, Varys said, his voice soft. Littlefinger's pushing Renly toward rebellion, and Cersei's backing it. Where do you stand? Bronn grinned, flipping a coin. Where the gold is, fat man. Littlefinger's paying well, but I'm not married to him. What's your offer? Varys' smile was enigmatic. Stability, Bronn. The realm needs order, not chaos. Watch Renly and Littlefinger. Tell me their plans, and I'll make it worth your while. Bronn leaned back, considering. Renly's meeting with Loras tonight. Talking crowns, not loyalty. Littlefinger's whispering about Cersei's support. Want me to stir the pot? Varys nodded. Stir carefully, and keep an eye on Joffrey. The boy's a spark in a dry forest. Bronn pocketed the coin and slipped out. Varys lingered, his thoughts a web of possibilities. Littlefinger's chaos was a threat, but it could be turned to his advantage. The realm's fate hung in the balance, and Varys would shape it. In the Riverlands, Robb Stark led a host of Northmen south, their banners snapping in the wind, direwolf, bear, and giant. Theon Greyjoy rode at his side, his iron-born swagger a contrast to Robb's grim resolve. Brynden Tully, the Blackfish, had sent word. Lannister raiders were burning villages, and Tywin's main force was moving east. The North had to strike before the Westerlands overwhelmed the Riverlands. Robb halted the column at a ford, his gray eyes scanning the horizon. We'll meet Uncle Brynden at River Run, he said. From there we hit Tywin's outriders, slow his advance. Theon grinned. Let's gut some lions, Stark. Show 'em the North doesn't kneel. Greyjoy Umber's voice boomed from the ranks. Aye, let's send Tywin running back to his rock. Robb's smile was grim. We fight smart, not just hard. Tywin's no fool. He'll try to bait us into a trap. We stay disciplined. A scout galloped up, his face pale. My lord, Lannister forces. 2,000 moving fast. They're burning Stone Mill not 10 miles east. Robb's jaw tightened. Then we move now. Theon, take the outriders. Harass their flanks. Greyjoy, ready the main host. We'll save Stone Mill and send a message to Tywin. As the army marched, Robb's thoughts turned to his father. Ned was fighting a different war in King's Landing, and Robb prayed he could reach him before their realm burned. In the Red Keep, Robert Baratheon sat in his chambers, Ned at his side. The confrontation with Cersei had shaken the court, and whispers of Joffrey's parentage were spreading. Stannis entered, his face grim, Melisandre at his side, her red robes a stark contrast to the room's gloom. The fleet's ready, Stannis said. We can blockade Casterly Rock within days. But the court's turning, Robert. Renly's meeting with the Tyrells, and I don't trust him. Robert's eyes flashed. Renly's my brother. He'll stand with us. Melisandre's voice was a low purr. The flames show a stag crowned in shadow, my king. Betrayal lurks close, and only fire can cleanse it. Ned's hand tightened on Ice's hilt. Keep your riddles, priestess. We need facts, not visions. Renly's ambitious, but he's no traitor. Yet... Robert grunted, waving Melisandre away. Ned, find out what Renly's up to. And Cersei, she's confined, but she's not beaten. I want her watched. Ned nodded, his resolve hardening. I'll handle it, Robert. But we need to move on Tywin. Rupp's marching south, and Dorne's still wavering. We can't wait. Robert's grin was feral. Then we march. Stannis, take the fleet west. Ned, rally the Riverlands with Robb. I'll hold King's Landing and deal with Cersei. As the council dispersed, Ned caught a glimpse of Sansa in the corridor, her face pale with fear. Joffrey's absence was a new threat, and Ned knew the boy's recklessness could spark disaster. The court was fracturing, and the reckoning was here. Robert Baratheon sat upon the Iron Throne, its cruel edges biting into his flesh. The throne room was packed. lords, knights, and small folk, their eyes fixed on the king who had defied death. Ned Stark stood at his right, his gray eyes weary but resolute. Stannis Baratheon flanked the left, his jaw set like stone, while Renly's absence was a silent alarm. As Cersei Lannister stood before the throne, her golden gown a defiance of her confinement, Jaime at her side, his Kingsguard armor gleaming. Joffrey, summoned from his hiding, sulked nearby, his face a mask of petulant rage. The court held its breath as Robert's voice boomed. "Cersei Lannister, you've been accused of treason, lying about your children's parentage, plotting against my hand, and poisoning my court. Ned's got proof, and I've seen it. Speak before I pass a judgment." Cersei's smile was venomous, her voice steadied despite the chains of accusation. "Your Grace, Lord Stark's proof is a fabrication, a northern plot to seize power. I am your queen, and Joffrey is your heir. These lies are an attack on the crown itself." Ned stepped forward, his voice calm but unyielding. "The lies are yours, Cersei. Jon Arryn died for this truth, and I've letters, witnesses, and your own brother's silence to prove it. Joffrey, Myrcella, Tommen, their Jaime is not Robert's." The court gasped, whispers erupting like wildfire. Joffrey's face reddened, his fists clenching, but Cersei silenced him with a glance. Jaime's hand twitched toward his sword, but Ser Barristan Selmy's presence at his side kept him still. Robert's eyes burned with rage, his voice a growl. "Ned's never lied to me, Cersei. You have. I've been a fool, but no more. Joffrey's no son of mine. He's a bastard, and you're a traitor." Cersei's composure cracked, her voice rising. "You dare call my son a bastard? You who've sired half the whoresons in this city! I protected the throne, Robert, while you drank and whored!" Robert surged to his feet, his warhammer in hand. "Enough! Cersei, you're stripped of your titles. Jaime, you're no Kingsguard, you're a disgrace. Joffrey, you're bound for the wall. Guards, take them!" Kingsguard knights moved forward, but a commotion at the doors halted them. Renly Baratheon strode in, Loras Tyrell at his side, a host of Tyrell men-at-arms behind them. "Hold!" Renly's voice rang out, his smile sharp. "Robert, you're tearing the realm apart. Cersei's guilty, aye, but so's Ned. He's been plotting with the North to seize power. My men found letters in his chambers." Ned's heart sank, recognizing Littlefinger's hand. "Lies, Renly. You're playing a dangerous game, and the realm will pay for it." Robert's eyes narrowed, his trust wavering. "Renly, what's this? You stand with me or against me?" Renly's smile faltered, but his voice was firm. "With you, brother, until you're unfit to rule. The court's fracturing, and Tywin's at our gates. Step aside, Robert. I'll hold the throne and unite the realm." The court erupted, lords shouting, swords half drawn. Stannis' voice cut through, cold as ice. "Treason, Renly, you're no king. The throne's mine by right if Robert falls." Robert's laugh was bitter. "Gods, my own brothers! Ned, you were right. This court's a viper's nest. Guards, seize Renly and his men." Chaos exploded. Tyrell men clashed with royal guards, steel ringing in the throne room. Ned drew ice, shielding Robert as Stannis rallied loyalists. Cersei seized the moment, slipping toward Joffrey, but Jaime grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Loras Tyrell fought like a storm, but Ser Barristan's blade met his. A dance of masters. Ned's voice roared over the din. "Enough! Stop this madness, or we all burn!" The fighting paused, swords hovering. Robert, bloodied but unbowed, raised his warhammer. Renly, "Stand down, or I'll crush you." Cersei, Jaime, Joffrey, to the dungeons. "Ned, end this." Ned nodded, his heart heavy. The throne's verdict was clear, but the cost was only beginning. Cersei Lannister sat in the Red Keep's dungeons, her golden hair tangled, her gown torn. Jaime crouched beside her, his hands bound, his eyes burning with defiance. Cersei's mind was a blade, still sharp. "We're not done," she whispered, her voice fierce. "Father's army is close, and Littlefinger's still out there. We can turn this." Jaime's grin was grim. "We're in chains, Cersei. Robert's got the court, and Ned's got his ear. What's left?" Cersei's eyes gleamed. "Joffrey. He's free, somewhere in the city. If he rallies our men, if Father arrives, we can strike. And Renly, his rebellion split the Baratheons. We use that." A clank at the door interrupted them. A guard, bribed by Littlefinger's coin, slipped a dagger and a note through the bars. Cersei read it, her lips curling. Joffrey's hidden. Strike when Tywin arrives. She hid the dagger in her sleeve, her resolve hardening. Jaime, she said, her voice low, when the time comes you'll fight. For me, for Joffrey, for us. Jaime nodded, his hand brushing hers. Always, Cersei. But if this fails, we die together. Cersei's smile was fierce. Then we'll burn them all first. Ned Stark stood in the Red Keep's war room, maps and reports scattered before him. The throne room clash had left the court in disarray, but Robert's decisive action had held it together. For now. Renley was confined, his Tyrellmen disarmed, but the damage was done. Tywin's army was days away, and Robb's forces were locked in battle in the Riverlands. Ned's heart ached for his son, but duty kept him in King's Landing. Arya slipped into the room, her eyes bright with news. "Father, I found Joffrey. He's hiding in Flea Bottom with Lannister men. They're planning something." Ned's jaw tightened. "Good work, Arya! But stay away from him. It's too dangerous. Tell Ser Barristan, and only him." Arya nodded, darting off. Ned turned to a letter from Robb, its words grim. The North had won its stone mill, but Tywin's main force was closing in. The Blackfish held River Run, but the Riverlands were bleeding. Ser Barristan entered, his face grave. "Lord Stark, we've got trouble. Varys reports Tywin's vanguard is at Harrenhal, and there's word of ships off Dorne, Martell banners, but no ravens to confirm." Ned's hope flickered. "Doran's moving. If Dorne joins us, we can flank Tywin. Send ravens to Sunspear, confirm their allegiance, and find Joffrey quietly." Barristan nodded. "I'll handle it. But the court's still whispering, my lord. Renly's men are spreading lies about you and Robert." Ned's hand rested on Ice's hilt. "Let them whisper. We'll win this with steel and truth." Stannis Baratheon stood on the deck of his flagship, Fury, the Blackwater Bay stretching before him. His fleet was poised to sail west to blockade Casterly Rock and cut Tywin's supply lines. Melisandre stood at his side, her red robes billowing, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "The flames show victory," she said, her voice a low chant. "The Lord of Light favors you, Stannis. The throne is yours by right." Stannis' jaw tightened. "The throne's Robert's for now. My duty's to him, not your god." Melisandre's smile was enigmatic. "Duty and destiny are one, my lord. Renly's betrayal proves the weakness of men. You are the fire that will cleanse them." Stannis turned away, his thoughts on King's Landing. Renly's rebellion had shaken him, not for love of his brother, but for the fracture it revealed. Robert was strong, but the realm was brittle. Stannis would hold the line, whatever the cost. A sailor's cry broke his thoughts. "Ships, my lord! Dornish banners, approaching fast!" Stannis' eyes narrowed. "Signal them. If they're allies, we sail together. If not, we fight." As the Dornish fleet drew near, a raven landed, its scroll bearing Doran Martell's seal. "Dorne stands with Robert. Tywin falls." Stannis' lips twitched, a rare hint of satisfaction. The tide was turning. Joffrey Baratheon crouched in a flea-bottom hovel surrounded by Lannister loyalists, cutthroats in gold cloaks, their eyes gleaming with greed. His mother's note, smuggled by a maid, burned in his pocket. "Rally the men. Father comes." Joffrey's heart raced. He would prove himself, seize the city, and take the throne. The Hound stood in the shadows, his scarred face unreadable. "This is madness, boy," he growled. "You've got no army, and Robert's got the city locked down. Turn back." Joffrey's voice was shrill. "I'm the king! These men follow me, not you! We'll take the Red Keep, free my mother, and kill Stark." Sandor's laugh was a rasp. "You're no king, and these men'll sell you for a copper. Last chance. Come with me, or you're on your own." Joffrey drew his dagger, his hand trembling. "Traitor! I'll have your head." Sandor stepped forward, his bulk filling the room. "Enough." He knocked the dagger from Joffrey's hand, grabbing his arm. "You're done, boy!" The loyalists hesitated, then drew blades, but a shout from outside froze them. Ser Barristan Selmy burst in, royal guards at his back. "Joffrey Baratheon, you're under arrest." Chaos erupted, steel clashing in the cramped hovel. Joffrey screamed, flailing as Sandor dragged him back. Barristan's blade flashed, cutting down a gold cloak, and the Loyalists broke, fleeing or falling. Joffrey's rebellion ended in blood. His dreams of glory shattered. Sandor handed the boy to Barristan, his voice low. "Take him! I'm done with this shit!" Barristan nodded, clapping Sandor's shoulder. "You did right, Clegane." Joffrey, bound and sobbing, was dragged to the dungeons, his fall a warning to all who defied the king. Varys stood in a shadowed alley, his silks hidden beneath a beggar's cloak. Bronn leaned against a wall, flipping a dagger, his grin sharp. "You've been busy," Varys said, his voice soft. "Joffrey's caught, Renly's confined, and Cersei's trapped. Littlefinger's running out of cards." Bronn chuckled. "He's still got a few. Whispered to Renly's men, kept the court stirred, but he's slipping. Too many enemies." Varys' smile was serene. "Lord Baelish thrives on chaos, but chaos has a price. What's his next move?" Bronn shrugged. "He's pushing Sansa Stark. Wants her to betray Ned, sow more distrust. Reckon he'll try to free Cersei. Keep the game going." Varys nodded, his mind a web of plans. "Watch Sansa, Bronn. Protect her if you can. And Littlefinger, if he moves against Ned, stop him." Bronn pocketed the dagger. "Gold's good, so I'm your man. But this city's about to burn, fat man. Hope you're ready." Varys watched him go, his thoughts turning to the realm's future. Littlefinger's chaos was a threat, but it could be harnessed. The throne's verdict was near, and Varys would ensure the right king sat upon it. In the Riverlands, Robb Stark stood on a hill overlooking the Trident, his army bloodied but victorious. The Battle of Stone Mill had broken Tywin's outriders, and the Blackfish's defensive river run had held the line. Theon Greyjoy, splattered with mud, grinned at Robb's side, while Great Jon Umber roared victory to the sky. "We've bloodied Tywin's nose," Robb said, his voice steady. "But his main force is coming. We need to link with Uncle Brynden and hold the fords." Theon nodded, his eyes gleaming. "Let's hit him hard, Stark. Show the lion what wolves can do." A scout galloped up, his face grim. "My lord, Tywin's army. 20,000, moving fast. They're bypassing River Run, heading for King's Landing." Robb's heart sank. "He's going for father and the king. We march now. Force march to Harrenhal. Cut them off." Greyjohn's voice boomed. "We'll crush 'em, lad! For the north, for Ned!" Robb's smile was fierce. "For the north, for father, let's move!" As the army marched, Robb's thoughts turned to Winterfell. Bran and Rickon were safe, Catelyn holding the castle, but the war was far from won. He prayed he could reach King's Landing in time. In King's Landing, Robert Baratheon stood in the throne room. The court gathered once more. Ned Stark stood at his side, his honor battered but unbroken. Cersei, Jaime, and Joffrey were brought in chains, their defiance a fading flame. Renly, released under guard, stood silent, his rebellion crushed. Stannis and Doran Martell's envoy flanked the throne, a united front against the Lannister threat. Robert's voice was a thunderclap. "The realm's bleeding, and it stops now. Cersei, Jaime, you're guilty of treason. You're exiled to Essos, never to return. Joffrey, you're for the wall. Myrcella Tommen, you're Baratheons no more, but I'll spare you. You'll live quietly, under guard." Cersei's eyes blazed, but she said nothing, her dagger hidden, her hopes pinned on Tywin. Jaime's grin was gone, his silence a surrender. Joffrey sobbed, his dreams of kingship dust. Robert turned to Renly. "You betrayed me, brother, but you're still blood. Swear loyalty, and you're pardoned. Defy me again, and you're dead." Renly bowed, his charm subdued. "I swear, your grace." Ned spoke, his voice steady. "Your grace. Tywin's army approaches. Robb's marching to meet him, and Stannis' fleet is with Dorne. We can end this war, but we must act now." Robert nodded, his warhammer in hand. "Then we march. Ned, you and Robb take the Riverlands. Stannis, Doran, hit Tywin from the south. I'll hold King's Landing and crush any who rise." A horn sounded outside, urgent and shrill. A gold cloak burst in, his face pale. "Your grace! Lannister banners! At the gates! Tywin's here!" The court froze, fear rippling through the crowd. Robert's grin was feral. Let him come. The stag's not broken yet. Ned drew ice, his heart racing. To the walls, Robert! We hold the city. As the court scrambled, Cersei's eyes gleamed, her dagger ready. The throne's verdict was clear, but the war was far from over. In Casterly Rock, Tywin Lannister led his army toward King's Landing, his cold resolve unshaken. The North had bloodied him, but the Lion would not yield. He would take the throne or burn it. In King's Landing, Cersei gripped her dagger, waiting for chaos to free her. Littlefinger slipped through the shadows, his plans shifting to the new reality. Varys watched his web tightening around the realm's future. Across the narrow sea, Daenerys Targaryen boarded a ship, her dragons soaring above. Westeros called, its throne a beacon in her dreams. She turned to Jorah, her voice fierce. The time is now. In the Red Keep, Robert Baratheon stood on the walls, his warhammer raised, Ned Stark at his side. Robb's army raced to join them, Stannis' fleet closed in, and Dorne's spears gleamed in the south. The storm had broken, and the fires of war would forge in a new Westeros or consume it. As Tywin's banners crested the horizon, Robert's roar echoed over the city. For the realm! The battle for the throne had begun.